Hello and welcome to this JavaScript session. My name is Onyekachi Mustapha Madubuike and I'll be handling this session today, the 13th of July 2021. Today we're going to be discussing the JavaScript callback function and the JavaScript promise. I hope you enjoy this. Don't hesitate to ask any questions when you feel a bit confused, and my email is going to be in the description somewhere just in case you are watching this video online. Hello guys and welcome to this JavaScript session. Today we're going to be talking about the callback function and the JavaScript promise. In our last session we discussed the set timeout method, which is basically a method that runs a block of code within a specified time. Okay, it's a method that executes a block of code after a specified time, right? And this particular method executes the block of code only once. So today we'll be looking at the callback function and the promise, right? But before we go into talking about the callback function, right, we need to first understand what a function is. I know that in your learning journey, you must have come across a function. I'm sure you have been using functions, but for the sake of this particular training, for the purpose of this session, we should talk about functions and see how they work, right? So let's define a function. A function is a block of code that performs a certain task when called. So basically, there is a block of code with some instructions, and it will only run when that particular block of code is called. And that block of code is what we call a function. Now, let's go into VS Code and see how a function works. So here I'm going to create a function. Let me just comment this. I'm going to create a function called greet, right? So it's basically going to greet you, So function, I'm typing. All right. So it takes in a string name, right? We open and the console is going to give out. It's going to greet us, Hello. My name is. So we'll say. What am I typing? Name, right? Let me just give some space for readability. Okay, so this is our function right here. So basically, this is a function called greet, and if you put a name in here, it's going to display on the console, hello, my name is, whatever name you put in here. So basically, this is a function called greet. The function takes in a string called name and gives out, it prints on the console, hello, my name is, whatever name you put here. So now let's call this function. How do you call a function? This is how you call a function. This is how you call this function. So let me put in Mustapha and then close this. Right now, I will try to run this program and then you will have a better feel of how a function works. So how do I run this? I'll just use my node and name of the file function.js, and then I'll run it, and then we'll see. Now you can see it right here. It says, hello, my name is Mustapha. right? So what happened here? This is a block of code that was called, and it ran and executed this, right? So let's go back to the definition of a function. A function is a block of code that performs a certain task when called, right? A function is a block of code, that performs certain task. This is the task to print out this name when called. So whenever you call, this is the call. Whenever you call this function, it performs this task. So let me just put in another name here so you will still understand. So I can put in here fill, right? Fill is the name, okay? Fill. And then if I try to run this, and you see, hello, my name is Phil, right? And that's just basically how a function works. Now, let's move ahead. Now that we understand how a function works and what a function is, now I want us to go ahead to understand what a callback function is. So in JavaScript, when you pass a function as an argument to another function, the function that is passed as an argument inside the other function is called a callback function. Okay, so this sounds really confusing. So basically, remember what we did initially? We passed a string into this function, we called it, and then it ran and gave us my name. Hello, my name is Mustapha. Now, in a callback function, instead of passing just a string here, you pass a function in here. And when you pass a function in there, now that is a callback function, right? So let's go through it again. When you pass a function as an argument to another function, the function that is passed as an argument inside of another function is called a callback function. Okay, still sounds kind of confusing. So I would say let's move to VS Code and code it out, because that's what we understand here. We just understand code, right? Okay, so we're done with functions. So let's go to callback. So now we want to demonstrate callback, right? So go call back. Okay. How do we start this? Create a function. We still use the same word greet, right? Then we'll pass a name, okay, and a function we're going to call callback. This is just a name. It could be anything, but it's cool to call it a callback so you understand exactly what you're doing. So console log. So I'm going to, after writing out this code, and I'll explain it to you, right? Hi. Okay. Close this out. Call back. So right. Okay, this is a lot of typing. I mean, let me just so this concept is a bit confusing, but after explaining it today, you're going to kind of understand, right? Okay, so here is how you pass. All right. So we'll say great. What have we done here? What I've done here is simply I created a function called greet, right? And this greet function takes in two arguments. The first argument is a string, which could be any name. And in this case, I would use Mustapha. And then it also takes in a function, which is what we'll call here a callback. Now, you can call this any name, but I use the name callback just to demonstrate this particular exercise, right? So when you call this function greet, you have to present it with a string, which would be a name, and you have to also present it with a function, which is the callback. And inside of this block of code, which is this function, this is what is going to run. It's first going to run hi. My name is, my name is, and it's going to say my name is Mustapha. And the next thing is going to run is what we have here. Okay, and it's going to run this callback function, which is what we have here. Okay, call me. This is the function. So we have a function here called call me, and that is what we are going to put in as an argument right here when calling this function. And how do we call this function, or this greet function? This is how we call the greet function. We call the greet function by passing in an argument, the first argument, which is the string Mustapha, and the second argument, which is a function call me right here. Okay, so string Mustapha, and then the next is call me, which is a function in itself. And what does this function do? This function basically says I am a callback function. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens, right? So the name of this particular file, I renamed it to callback. Callback. So let's run this. And you can see, hello, hi, my name is Mustapha. I am a callback function. I mean, I'm not a callback function. That's just what the program says. This is just for the purpose of demonstration. So you don't see me, out there and call me a callback function. Okay. So that's that about the callback function. If you have any questions, I'm just going to wait. You go to the comment section and just ask your questions, drop your questions, and then I'm going to address them